In my, at this point, multiple years speedrunning and playing Hollow Knight, my mind has been gradually filling up with a bunch of weird and random information about this game that I just felt like I needed to share at some point. So here we go, here's 10 tightly packed minutes of completely random Hollow Knight information. Let's get into it. Okay, starting off pretty simple. The two different fonts used in Hollow Knight are called Trajan Pro Regular and Perpetua, one used for titles and the other used for dialogue and text boxes and such. The Knight's base movement speed is 8.3 game units per second. But how much is a game unit exactly? Well, the Knight is exactly 0.5 game units wide. If we take a big room like Dirtmouth for example, we can find that it's 265 game units wide. If we then stretch this across the map, we can roughly estimate that Hollow Nest is about 2,650 game units wide and 1,855 game units tall. This means that, uninterrupted, it would take the Knight 319.28 seconds to walk across Hollow Nest. In the official Hollow Knight companion book by Fangamer titled The Wanderer's Journal, a character named Elena the Chronicler depicts her observations about Hollow Nest as she travels through. Funnily enough, she mentions how Lem actually tried to buy her journal for 200 geo, mirroring the price of a Wanderer's Journal in-game, which is quite a silly detail. The White Palace-dwelling wingsmould is one of the few enemies in the game that cannot be killed. Or can it? It turns out that the wingsmould increases its health to 999 anytime it detects being hit. So to kill it, you just need to deal more than 999 damage in one blow, which is only doable using cheats. The only way to do this legit is to patch down to a patch before the Lifeblood update and use flukes on the wingsmould, as the damage from the flukes don't register as hits and therefore don't trigger the heal. Interestingly, when the wingsmould dies, it turns into a crawlid and drops 2 geo. This makes sense as Team Cherry most likely copied this as a placeholder asset since it wasn't actually meant to be seen. A Crystal Dash takes a minimum of 0.81 seconds to charge and moves you at a speed of 30 game units per second. Using the size values from earlier, we can then conclude that it takes a minimum of 89.14 seconds to C-dash across Hollow Nest. As a side note, obviously these values aren't represented in the actual game since there are screen transitions and objects in the way, and the rooms don't really line up in a way where you could get this timing, but it's just a thought experiment so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, moving on. Every patch and beta patch of Hollow Knight up until patch 1.4.3.2 has used a 4-number labeling system. With the mostly bug fix patches Team Cherry started releasing in 2021, they changed to a completely different system. This is most likely the game's Unity build number or something, I don't know, I'm not a programmer. A palindrome is a word or phrase that spells out the same thing front and backwards. The pill flip in the Royal Waterways can attack the player both upside down and regularly. Its name is also a palindrome to reference this fact. Clever, Team Cherry. The summarized cost of every purchasable thing in Hollow Knight is 69,911. This can be lowered to 69,235 using, for example, the Leg Eater discount. Nice! Grimchild actually treats Millabelle the Banker as an enemy and attempts to shoot at her. This makes her cower and reject interaction. Smart. This is also true for Weaverlings and Hatchlings. Heavy Blow and Glowing Womb are by far the worst pieces of garbage in this game. Do not use them. The Lifeblood update made the amount of life seed from each Lifeblood cocoon consistent, whereas before it used to be a random number between 2 and 4. This is by far the most important addition of the Lifeblood update. Sorry, Hive Knight. Speaking of Lifeblood, having Lifeblood charms equipped actually makes the life seed run towards you, whereas they usually run away from you. The dark and atmospheric ambient sound played in the Abyss is actually the main menu theme of the game, distorted and slowed down. Have a listen. Now listen to it sped up to 900%. Whew, spooky stuff. The Hunter has a bit of a superiority complex and delivers some absolutely sick burns in his Hunter's Journal notes. Take this one about Zote, for an example. Speaking of Zote, there are 11 different types of Zoteling in the game, most of them available through the Eternal Ordeal. More Zote stuff. Zote's Precept 56, titled Do Not Dream, claims that dreams are dangerous and that you should not dream. He also claims that he himself does not dream in this passage. However, you can actually get Zote to drop essence when defeating him in the Trial of the Warrior, which implies that he does actually dream. Is he just a massive hypocrite, or is he just in denial? It's really hard to say, but we do know that Precept 20 reads, "Speak only the truth," and he doesn't do a lot of that, so take that how you will. These signposts placed all around Hallownest certainly do remind me of something. I wonder what it is. The Elder Balders have a 50-50 chance between spitting venom and spitting a smaller Balder. The highest recorded amount of spits with proof in the Hollow Knight community is a 19th spit by Palm. The chance for a 19th spit to occur is 1 in 524,288. This, to me, makes it not entirely implausible that a casual player has at some point quit and refunded the game due to getting stuck to the Balder because they got such unimaginably bad RNG. That idea is really funny to me. In Hollow Knight, each room is labeled with an internal code to, well, label the room. This usually consists of the area name followed by the number of the room. However, some areas have different names in these room codes. For example, Kingdom's Edge is called Deepnest_East, City of Tears is called Ruins, and Greenpath, Fungal, Fog Canyon, and Queen's Gardens are called Fungus 1 through 4. The Hollow Knight beta released to Kickstarter backers back when Hollow Knight was still in development featured a mechanic called a backdash. The backdash would allow the knight to jump backwards a short distance to avoid an attack. If you did it 3 times in a row with good timing, you would get an extra long backdash with a nice little spin animation. Though this was obviously cut from the game, a lot of the code and values for it still exist in the game files. In Hollow Knight's audio files, there are some absolute gems like these ones. I present to you ruins_big_lift_gate_door_thingy_close.wav. With a drumroll effect I also stole from the game files. Speaking of game files, imagine having to sit in a recording booth and do these sounds. Please make it stop. Please make it stop. Whew. Okay, that's better. Following the release date announcement of Godmaster, originally titled Gods and Glory, an update blog post was posted to Team Cherry's website by Ari Gibson on the 17th of July 2018. This blog post included a passage detailing the creation process of the Pale Court live recording, a live recorded orchestration of the White Palace theme only included in the Gods and Nightmares album. And according to me at least, the most beautiful part of the Hollow Knight soundtrack. It's what you're hearing in the background right now. Where am I going with this exactly? Well, bear with me. The blog post also mentions that other Hollow Knight soundtracks got similar treatment to Pale Court, in other words, a live orchestration. And they mentioned how they would be released on Christopher Larkin's Bandcamp over the coming months. When Hollow Knight's 4th DLC changed names to Godmaster, this blog post was rewritten, and this part was actually omitted from it. I did some digging and even asked Leth, Team Cherry's PR and marketing guy, and he confirmed that they were actually never released. So who knows, maybe someday we will get these beautiful orchestrations, or not. I hope they turn up eventually. While fighting Grim in the overworld in his tent, he bows to you, but while fighting him in Godhome, he bows to the audience in the background. During Hollow Knight's development, there were plans for a Radiant menu style, but this was likely scrapped due to being very hard on the eyes. Leth from Team Cherry owns a real-life replica of the Hollow Knight bench. Judging from the patch notes, only about 1/26th of the Lifeblood update has to do with Lifeblood. They should have called it the new update. The Mr. Mushroom achievement is the only achievement in the game that isn't in monochrome, which is a clear sign that he is clearly the main character of Hollow Knight. The volume of the Pale Lurker's first scream does not scale with the game's audio slider, which means that she ends up being really loud. Oh, and while we're in the area, you didn't know about this spot with the Georock. You didn't know about this spot either. The game's official press kit includes 3 different charm sprites that aren't actually used in the game, these 2 titled Generic and this one titled Wall_Reveal. It's hard to know what the generic ones would have done, but the idea of a charm that reveals hidden walls is certainly interesting. A King's Mold has 4 arms. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I tried to get as much random stuff here as possible, and I hope you learned something new today. If you want to see more videos, consider subscribing. I do a lot of speedrunning and generally Hollow Knight related things, so. I also stream on Twitch. You can find me at twitch.tv/blue_sr_, where I do speedruns and stuff. So yeah, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Team Cherry for creating Hollow Knight, because this game is amazing and has so much love and care put into it. Okay, bye.